doing it. You supposed to be happy you sitting there with Kid L. Why you mad?
The Kid L Podcast.
Rocking and rolling on this rainy day. What we got here, man? You're the owner.
I'm the publisher, founder, CEO of Beautiful Machine Magazine. We're going into our 5th year, online magazine based in Detroit. Our motto is we're not into anything, we're into everything.
Beautiful. How long have you been into publishing for?
You know, I got an interest many years ago. One of my good friends, Derek May, who's like one of the techno originators, he would always go overseas and bring back these really cool magazines. And I would look at it and be like, man, this is sweet. And it was always cutting edge shit. It was like nudity. You know, it was cool shit, but in an artful way. And I said, you know, I want to do something like this. And, you know, I did my homework and I sat on it, realized what it would take, and talked to some people that I wanted to engage in business with. They were all talking ridiculous. I didn't really feel like they were worth the money. I didn't feel like we had a shared vision. So I just did it myself.
Wow, man. And have you seen like a good response from it so far?
It's been tremendous. We grow every year. And it's so funny because that's good and bad. The magazine changes almost every 3 months. And we battle to focus on the new consumer that's reading the magazine. Because we do maybe 3 or 4 events a year, and they're really strong. And they bring on new readers. So there's always this, do we need to shift this way, or do we need to engage with more people that are this age or that age, or do we want to stay away from this story? Or, you know, there's always those things.
Right.
And ideally that goes against the core of us being into everything. So we just kind of say, this is where we are. This is what got us here. Let's stop second guessing everything. And we just put it out.
Yeah.
And people like it.
Yeah. And that's the part of the publishing, right? Publishing, part of the whole job is to know what to put out, what not to put out.
Exactly.
What makes sense, what's going to get attention, what's a waste of time, like all of those things. How did you build and nurture the ability to know what makes sense, what doesn't make sense, and to know what the general audience is going to want to consume?
Well, for the first year, I pretty much did everything. I wrote 90% of the stories, picked just about all the content, and then other people got more involved. And then it kind of was a shared task. But it always starts with, I trust my taste. Mm-hmm. And because what happens when you start to deviate too far from that principle, you lose your way.
Right.
You just do. You know what I mean? It could be, you could be a chef that had the best burger, and then someone says, well, put some truffles on it or whatever, and they fuck it up.
Yeah.
You know, or they make it different, and it's not what made you the chef that everyone liked your burger.
Yeah, man. I remember when I was first starting, a lot of people don't know, I've been making content my whole life. Just there wasn't Instagram at the time and whatnot. But I've been involved in hip-hop and rap since 2012. Like actually being involved in it, like actually shooting music videos and whatnot. 2017, I started breaking into Instagram and using that as my platform. When I started gaining some type of popularity, I remember my friends pulling me to the side. They're like, you got to start wearing Gucci. Yeah. You got to start getting the buffs. You got to start wearing chains. You got to get an Escalade. I'm like, what are you talking about? That's not me at all.
Exactly.
And I'm super, super glad I did not listen to anybody, because I've had friends that did do that, and they are miserable. They're like, I got tattoos all over my body. I did all this haircut stuff. I got the chains and all this, and I feel miserable. I'm like, thank God I didn't listen to anybody around me.
Don't ever do that.
Yeah.
Because, see, this is the thing. Like, there's so many things about this. Like, they say that 5% of the people control 95% of the wealth. Okay? Then there's like, I remember this passage that my dad and my grandmother from the Bible, and I can't remember the scripture or whatever, and I'm probably going to mess it up. But it's something like the road that leads to life is cramped, and the one that gets you all fucked up is big. Same thing in life. So the people that have the ability to create something, you always have to stick to your gun and not let the 95% that are just the consumer-minded people come in and tell you something.
Right.
Because it's like Jay-Z said, if they could do it, they would have did it. That's just it. And sometimes, like, it comes across as being arrogant, or it could come across as, you think it's your way or whatever. But we live in a country where if people want to do something, they could do it too. Mm-hmm. But you have to trust yourself until other people around you become trustworthy. And then you let them, influence your decisions. And that's where I'm at now. I have a great team of people around me. And what I had to do is I had to let them do their thing because they all are talented. But I wasn't quick to let them just go.
Yeah, but trust their creativity and their process, right?
Yes, and a lot of that was because I was really narrow in my focus. I wanted it to be different, and it took me a long time to define that different. So I don't expect for someone to define it in 3 months or whatever.
Right.
It's not what I see.
Yeah.
But we're on a good path, and I have great people around me. And I get to call some really amazing people when I need some great advice.
Yeah.
And they take my call, and they let me know when I'm right and wrong. Yeah. And, I say sorry when I need to, and I don't when I don't need to.
I want to rewind kind of into your start, not even just in business, but growing up. You're from Detroit?
Yes.
What was it like for you growing up in Detroit, and how did that lead you to the entertainment scene?
Well, Detroit, I had one of the dopest childhoods anybody could have. I grew up in the Dexter-Davidson area, legendary neighborhood for a lot of reasons. I grew up in the area where the Young Boys Incorporated were strong. They were in my neighborhood. I went to school with a lot of their brothers. But there's this little bitty area of probably 6-7 streets called this Paradise Pocket. It was called Russell Woods. And in Russell Woods, you had doctors, principals, engineers, lawyers in this little area. So although we were surrounded by, I don't know what to call it, but just a rougher area, we had this little area which some amazing people came out of. And we were tight-knit. So I had the best of both worlds. My parents stayed together until my mother died. I had 3 sisters, 2 brothers, big family. Everybody didn't follow the script. My little brother went the way of the streets. My one of my sisters went to the way of drug addiction. They got pulled into that shit. But the other siblings did what we were supposed to do. And, the script was for me to be a lawyer. I thought it would be cool. But in high school, like, there was this thing. Like, we were preps. That was our style. We were preppy kids. And the preppy kids would form these social clubs. And they would throw parties. Now, my best friend, Daryl, his brother was in this group called the Brats. The Brats were these smart motherfuckers who went to Cass and all these other great schools. And they were cool as hell. I mean, they were my inspiration. And they snuck us into a party. Probably, I might have been 14. And it was so funny because they set us down and they gave us a script. They said, okay, you're going to be in the 9th grade. You're going to say you went to Kettering. You're going to, they gave us this whole script. And I swear to God, I'm in the party It was at the YWCA, which was down. It doesn't even exist anymore. And I'm dancing with this girl. I'm scared as hell, but I'm dancing and I'm talking. And I could tell I'm getting on her nerves because she's trying to dance. So I swear to God, let's just say I was 14. We were talking and she goes, I'm only 14. And I said, for real? Me too. And she said, wait a minute, I'll be right back. Never fucking came back. I stood there for a half hour. But the moral of that story is, from that moment on, I knew I was going to have a club when I got to high school, and I knew I was going to give parties.
Yeah.
And that's what happened. Like when I was going from the 8th to the 9th, I spent that whole summer planning a party.
Wow.
Against all of my mentors. They were saying, no. Go to high school, get to know everybody. And in the 10th grade, that's when you do the party stuff. I was like, no, man, because that's who I was. I remember watching documentaries about Woodstock. And I was playing music at the time. I was a piano player. I was a trumpet player. So I was always interested in the arts. And, we had a band. So we had all the trappings to be cool kids. And I tell you what, around that time, there was a guy named The Wizard. You ever heard of The Wizard? Mm-hmm. The Wizard, he's still, to this day, one of the biggest DJs in the world.
Oh.
And he was, his name is Jeff. He's a friend of mine. But he went by The Wizard. He was on FM 98 for maybe an hour every night. Hottest thing out. And then there's another DJ, God rest his soul, very popular back then, named Ray Berry. So I talked to Ray, and Ray gave me this idea. He said, you know what? You should do The Wizard versus Ray Berry. And I'm like, that is the coolest shit I've ever heard. I said, that would be big. So I didn't have any money. And to make matters worse, my parents were Jehovah's Witnesses. They did not play that party shit. That was not a part of what I was supposed to be doing.
Right.
So me and my buddies, it was me, Marvin Glenn, Daryl Pearson. The name of our club was Rio. And so we got me and Marvin got a paper out, collected for 2 weeks straight and kept all the money. And the funny thing is the guy calls my house or whatever, and my father went crazy. Like, these are kids. No one told you to give them no goddamn papers. Come get this crap off my porch. So we got away with like $200-300 scot-free. Nice. So we put a little bit of the money down at this place called the Wildlife Society Hall. Daryl's brother, he was a Kappa, older guy. We looked up to him. He told us he had talked to the Wizard, and the Wizard was cool. I got everything. We gave a little bit of money to everybody. So we got the flyers. We're out promoting. People going crazy. And something told me, I said, Daryl, we need to go talk to the Wizard. Because his brother was he was a fast talker. So I didn't feel totally comfortable. So we went and put a flyer on the Wizard's car because I knew what he drove. And it was parked right outside of JLB. So I put it, wrote the number, blah, blah, blah. Lo and behold, the next day, he calls. Jeff used to stutter. He doesn't stutter anymore. He called, what is this? He didn't know shit. So we're like, oh, man, this is terrible. This is the first crisis I've ever had. And so he was like, you can't do this, man. You can't do it. Can't do it. And so he was young too. So I was disappointed. So I said, all right, we'll stop passing them out. The next day he called back and said, listen, man, you got to give me $400.
Yeah.
Keep passing it out. And I'm probably not going to make it. But that's the best I could do.
Yeah.
And I was like, cool. Now, at the time, I was working at Northland. $400 was like a month's fucking pay. It was, like minimum wage.
What year are we talking about roughly?
Fuck, it was... I graduated in 88, so what are we talking? 84?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but it was so fucking cool. So I said, Jeff, all right, come out to Northland. I got the money. Now, I'm trying to figure out what the hell I'm going to tell my father. I'm not going to have a check. We already did this paper out crap. So, but this was the cool thing. I told everybody at school the Wizard was coming to my job. So around the United Shirt where I worked, it was girls. Everybody was waiting on the Wizard. And he came.
That's crazy.
So I gave, we walked off. I gave him the money. He was like, okay, man, if you ever want to book me, call my brother. So I was like, cool. So we're passing out the flyers and all this shit. So, and I'm going to speed this up because this is a really great story, though. So we get to the venue. Now, we haven't taken care of any proper business. Like if we were supposed to give you $500, we gave you $100.
Right.
We just didn't have it. We were just making shit up. So we get to the venue. Now the venue was owned, or it was some weird shit. It was called the Wildlife Society Hall, and it was a guy near. I'll never forget this dude. Everyone called him Uncle Dokes. Uncle Dokes had to be like in his 80s, and I think he lived there. So we get there, party night. Now, another thing. One of my boys got beat up while we were promoting. It was just the wildest shit. Yeah. He called this guy's sister the B word, and they went to Southfield High. So we went up to Southfield to pass out the flyers. So when they saw him and me together, they were like, Meech, what the fuck, man? Your man was like blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, look, man. It's my guy. He's probably hammered. He's a kid. I diffused the shit. I told him to go sit in the car. He didn't go sit in the car. So I'm at one door. He's at the other. I come back. His jaw's swollen. It's just a mess. So I'm like, dude. So that was the first bad thing. So party night, we get there. Uncle Dokes is going, Yeah, I'm not coming in here. What the fuck? You owe me $250. So I'm trying to talk this guy into this shit. He's not going for it. He's not letting us in. We got the sound guy, Ray Berry. They're outside in the alley trying to come up the back door. So after about 20, are we good on the sound? I knocked the mic.
Oh, yeah, it should be fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
So after about 20 minutes, and I'm just exhausted, I said, give me my money back. He's like, I don't have that money. I said, whoa, how you not gonna, you gotta give me my money back. So I knew I had him. So I said, listen, this is what we're gonna do. I owe you $400. I'm gonna let you sit at the door and you collect the money, and I'm gonna give you an extra $100. So he went for it.
Yeah.
So I go outside. All right, guys, bring the stuff up. Ray Berry looks at me and goes, whoa, had a real deep voice. I know you don't think I'm about to unload. You ain't gave me no money.
Yeah.
I'm like, what the fuck? And so I had no more money. So at this time, ATM machines were just now starting to like be a thing. So Daryl's brother Dudley, he collars me in Daryl. He said, man, listen, is this shit about the work? And me and Daryl went, yeah, not knowing if it was going to work.
Yeah.
So he's like, how much? He goes to the ATM. He comes back. He pays Ray, whatever. Now, mind you, we don't have any security. We hadn't thought of shit.
Yeah.
So about, these parties started early. So maybe about 8, 9, whatever. We looked outside, kid, it was a line as far as you could see.
Yeah.
And back then it was like $5 or so. It was something really small. So I'm standing like behind the where they had the desk. So he got his money. He was happy. So we took over the door. And I swear to you, every 10 minutes, I'm doing this saying, take the price up. To the point where we had a high school party that was like $20 to get in.
Nice.
And it was dudes in there with like the fraternity shit. It was older. And the cool part, I turned around and the wizard was there.
Yeah.
And he went upstairs. We had probably, it was unheard of, maybe 600-700 people for a high school party.
Wow, man.
I had so much fucking money. It was just crazy.
Right.
And I was a legend.
Man.
Like I don't think I threw. After that, Rio broke up. And imagine this. I was throwing parties in high school as Demetrius Carrington and Company.
Right.
It was crazy. And I just the power that I had, I didn't even really throw too many more parties in high school. It just was, we like formed a girls group called Obsession. You know, it was the coolest shit. I mean, I had the greatest high school time. And then that just went from doing parties. And after high school, we started doing house music acts. And it just got bigger and bigger and bigger. And at that time, by that time, my father had come to me and said, look, clearly you don't want to be a Jehovah's Witness. So I'm not going to force this on you. I've taught you everything I could teach you. So what you want to do?
Right.
So I told him what I wanted to do. And at that time, like this was like Def Comedy Jam was all the rage. So one thing about me, I always do my homework. So I had a phone in my room. And I would call every day all these agencies and just get their rosters. That's all I felt like I was in when I had these sheets with these major people's name.
Right.
So back then you could say, hey, I want to book Keith Sweat. I was like, oh, you got to call Kid L. That's his agent.
Wow.
Oh, you got to call this guy. I knew that shit like that.
Yeah.
And I was still making music. So we were submitting all of this music to these companies. And the interesting thing was we were black kids, but we were making like English beat shit. You know, it wasn't, it was like this synthesized Thompson Twins type shit. And so I'll never forget this dude. Guy named Jack Tan worked for RCA Records back then. He said, I'll take a meeting with you. And so I don't know what my parents were thinking, but they let me go. What the fuck was that? So they let me go to New York, and I met with this guy, Jack Tan. And he was like, where's your parents? I was like, well, I'm just here, man. And so we talked and talked. He said, how old are you? I said, I'm 17. 17? He said, I'm going to tell you something. He said, your music is bullshit. He said it just like that. He said, your music is bullshit. But the fact that you are here at 17, you should be in the entertainment business.
Wow.
And you shouldn't be making music. You should be doing something in the entertainment music. And that, I never forgot that conversation. And my love for promoting was at a high.
Yeah.
So I talked my father into staking me, like, because I was so new, none of the agencies would sell me an act in the city, like a major city. They were, you got to start small, blah, blah, blah. So I went to Flint. And Flint has this really beautiful, like, theater called the Whiting Auditorium. And we booked Bernie Mac.
Bernie Mac?
Bernie Mac.
The comedian.
That was my first major show.
Wow.
Bernie Mac.
So this is early 90s, right?
Yeah.
Okay, wow.
Bernie took, his shit sold out.
Yeah.
So we made like 46 grand.
What was his booking fee? I'm sorry. What was his?
It was like 16K.
Oh, okay.
It wasn't shit. And so my father took every fucking dime, by the way. Every fucking dime. Well, let me say this. I bought a used Mercedes. He gave me the down payment. And I'll never, but it was cool because he was so happy. That's like how you just have those 10 memories in your head. He had this leather briefcase with all this fucking cash. And he was conflicted though, because Bernie, cursing and everything anti-Jehovah's Witness. And so he came to me, he said, man, I can't put up money for this stuff anymore. Oof. I didn't sleep well. This goes against who I am. Wow. This is what you wanted. But he didn't give me my fucking money back. If he'd have just gave me my money back, I would have been straight. Yeah. So but this is what he said. He said, I got a lady who wants to meet you. I said, cool. So I had another show, and it was with Bill Bellamy.
Cool.
Hit. So it was the funniest shit because the lady bought all the tickets, like the front row. And so it was like we had them backstage. And her husband he had this finger wave, had the gator boots and shit, real fly guy, rings on every hand, Versace. They looked like, he looked like a pimp, like hood money. So I told Bill, I said, Bill, I got some people I want you to meet, blah, 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 blah. I don't know what it's about. My father says, they want to invest in my company. So he said, all right. So he went back there, had a comedy 15-minute show with the people. They had a great time. The guy with all the hair and shit, me and him haven't been separated since that time. He's my main guy. Dave Lee, by the way. And so at that time, I had all the money in the world. She was a multimillionaire. She asked me what I needed. I told her, no problem. So we did. I took a trip out to L.A., met with all the agents, told them I'm done with this Minnie Mouse bullshit. It's no difference in a show in Flint or Detroit. And I learned it was just territorial. That's all. They had their people in place in Detroit. So there's a lady named Kara Lewis. You might have heard her name dropped a couple of times. Like Eric B. and Rakim name dropped her years ago. Tell Kara we need a show, blah, blah, blah. She's easily one of the most powerful women in the business. Wow. So she let me come out and sit with her. I just sit and shut the fuck up and learn. And she told me, I'm going to make you a very successful black promoter. And I said, okay, I want to be a successful black promoter. So I listened, and she taught me. And so around that time, I did some shows. We did a lot of shit. Made a whole bunch of money. Everything was going cool, but it wasn't as fun because the lady was older, and I was young, and I had a girlfriend at the time. So I couldn't do dumb shit that I wanted to do with like other girls because she would tell my fucking girlfriend. And it was bullshit. Imagine like traveling, and because we were all over the country. And like Phoenix, we controlled a venue in Phoenix. So imagine Phoenix, right? And all these fucking girls and like a 50-year-old lady sitting there with your wife just watching.
Yeah.
And you're like in your 20s and you're like, you want to have fun. You've made all this fucking money. So it was some bullshit. So one of my buddies, and he called me like, man, we see what you're doing. I got a friend. He's loaded too. He would love to do business with you. And there was no reason for me to leave this lady.
You just wanted to screw other chicks.
I just wanted to be free and have fun.
Right.
And so we formed, I had the company already. So I sold them a portion of the company.
Right.
And our first show together was Biggie, Method Man, Naughty by Nature.
My God. That's
when like that OPP shit was all the rage.
Man.
At Shane Park.
Whew.
Sold out.
So you had Biggie Smalls in Detroit?
In Detroit.
Wow.
First time he had come. Well, actually, It was the first time he played. The first time he came, he was just there with Puffy at the Mary J. When Mary J. was at the Fox, and they brung him out.
Do you remember what year this was roughly?
Man,
Was it
91.
94?
It was. I still got. I'm gonna give you some of these backstage passes I got, but it was like early 90s for sure.
Wow, man.
Early 90s.
That's so cool. I saw too. You had photos with Biggie, and it looked like you guys had like a personal relationship or friendship that built.
We got really cool. And like the first time I brung him, we just hit it off, and we did more dates, and me and Daryl wrote a movie. We listened to a fucking song and wrote a movie based off what the song was about.
From Biggie?
It was for Biggie, but the song was this song about drugs and shit. So we wrote this drug. I swear to God, man, I shouldn't even say this, but it was really fucking close to Belly. It was really fucking close.
Right.
Now, I'm not saying that. By no means am I saying.
Somebody stole your idea?
I'm not saying that. I'm not, but it was very close.
Right.
But I realized it wasn't a masterpiece. And if you wanted to write a fucking hip-hop drug movie, that's a story that could easily come in somebody's mind.
Did you guys get to give it to anybody in his team or give it to him?
Fuck yeah. I got a signed contract right now for Biggie to be in this movie.
Wow.
And we had a fucking party. We were about to shoot it. We had a deal with Paramount. We were going to go 50-50. We were going to put up half. They were going to put up half. We were going to do a $4 million project.
Wow.
They sent a guy up here. He was called a script doctor. Every fucking day he came to my office for 3 weeks. And we read it and he rewrote it. We were seriously about to do a fucking movie.
Yeah.
We had Incognito, my boys J.D. Simpson at the time. He was like he was in the race to get one of the casinos. So we did this party where we were celebrating all this shit. And, right when we were getting everything in order, and I had started talking to Kedar Massenberg about doing the soundtrack, and Puffy was mad. And it was dope. It was like shit happening. And then he got killed.
Wow.
It just fucked up everything.
But,
and this is the thing. It's just...
That's like 98, right?
I don't even remember. No, it wasn't. It was 98
when he got killed. Because he got killed after Tupac. Tupac got killed.
No, he got killed in the 90s because we did shows in the 90s.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
98. I'm thinking 88.
No. Yeah, he died in 98. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he died right. He died less than a year or about a year after Tupac. So it was about 1998 probably.
I don't remember.
So you guys made this movie for Biggie around.
We hadn't started.
Yeah, you guys had it all planned out,
and then
unfortunately he passed away around that time, which is What was it like? What was your relationship with him personally?
It was beautiful, man. Biggie. Let me ask you this: how do you think? If I said to you, tell me what kind of guy you think Biggie was, what would you say?
Just a cool dude, man.
He was one of the coolest, meekest people you ever want to meet.
Yeah.
Like, he was just cool as fuck, quiet, just like kind of shy in a way. Like with girls, he was very shy. I mean, like, he was nothing like you think. Very friendly. Like the first time I ever seen him, he was standing against the wall at Shane Park, smoking a joint. Now back then, smoking a joint was like, what the fuck? It wasn't like now where it was like, who's smoking weed? That kind of shit. And so I walked back there, and first thing he said was, you want to hit this? And little Kim was standing right next to him. And she didn't look nothing. This was before the glam shit. She just looked like little Kim from the hood. And after that, we just got cool. I mean, and we did a whole bunch of shows together. And, but he had a girl here or somebody, because I thought he was gone like a couple of times. And I called him. He was like, yo, D, I'm down at this place called Floods. I'm like, what?
Really?
And, you know, I'm like, what are you doing, man? How you know, man? I move around. You know, he don't tell you all this shit. But he had a girl. He would stay here for weeks. And we got cool and it was crazy. And I tell you, let me tell you my almost legendary rap story. We walk in a hotel and this girl, pretty girl, said to me and Big walking together, she looked at me and said, I'm going to come see you later. So I'm like, you know, I'm arrogant as fuck. I got all this money. We had the party lined up. And I was like, all right. So we had this party. And all this shit can be corroborated by Trick Trick. Trick Trick was there. You think I'm bullshitting?
No, I do not.
Call Trick Trick. And so we had this party. We got all these strippers and shit, and the hotel made us get the whole fucking floor. So we just having a great time.
Yeah.
And so Big says, D, I need the key to your room. So I'm like, all right, I give him the key. So about 15 minutes later, I'm thinking, what the fuck? All the money from the show is in there.
Oh.
Let me wise the fuck up. So I go, I knock on the door. And lo and behold, the girl that said, I want to
come see you
was in there.
Ooh.
This time, she was standing up. She had the most glorious body I've ever seen in my fucking life.
Yeah.
And so I started the dumb shit. Thought she was coming to see me. And then I looked at Big and he laughed. And then I said, so what's up? Y'all straight? You know. And Big looks, he tells me, you know, what he wants from her. I'm not gonna say it. But so I told her, she said, I said, you okay with that? And she was like, yeah. And then she said, are you staying? I'm thinking this is my fucking time to be legendary. This is my moment that I will always be able to say me and Big did this to, you know, that. So I said, yeah. And then she said, well, it's up to him. Now, this is my guy. He was taller than me. He walks over, puts his head on my shoulder, and he's walking me to the door. And this is the funniest thing. And if you're ever around my friends, you'll hear one of them say this. He goes, yo, D, everything ain't for everybody. and I looked and I just laughed. And I never saw the girl again.
Oh my God, that's so fucking legendary.
But
dude.
we had so much shit. Like it would be shit that he would say. Like we would just be out at a restaurant. And like once he got a little buzzed or whatever, he would start rapping.
Really?
And a lot of it, see, I don't even tell these stories because unless you was there, you would think I'm lying. Motherfuckers, you know, because people be lying. Like I've had people come up to me and say like, yeah, you know, my boy Kid L's the one who brung Big to Shane Park. You know, I'm just like, all right, whatever. And so, but like he would say shit like, okay, I'll give you an example. Me, him, and Patrick. Patrick was my partner at the time. We're sitting out, we're chilling, and Big is just talking. Now, girls knew who he was. He didn't have to say shit. We needed visual aid. We needed Rolexes and the occasional pulling out the fucking wad and, you know, all that shit. Nobody knew who we were. So back then, hip-hop was different than it is now. Like back then, Puffy, their whole thing was, this is what I'm buying my girl. And it was a competition to see who was going to spend the most on their girl. Wow. Now it's like, I ain't buying no shit. You know, it's that kind of mentality. So it wasn't nothing for a guy to say something like, yo, I'm going to get you this. What you want? Whatever it is, I got it. You know, that was the game. And so I don't remember if it was me or Patrick or whatever. But it was this. I can't even think of the fucking lyric, man. It was. Oh yeah. It was the lyric, and it wasn't even Big that said this shit. I want to say it was maybe Mace. Big says to me and Pat, stay humble, stay that line to table blow like hootie, real pimp niggas spin a throw on the booty. He said that shit to us. And then years later, it was in a song. Oh, yeah. That happened 2 or 3 times. So obviously he was writing shit and it just was coming out when it was coming out.
Yeah.
Because it was just stuff like that. And that whole My Detroit Players thing, if anyone tells you he's talking about anybody, and I'm going to name everybody it could have been. Demetrius Carrington, Patrick Edwards, Terry Sullivan, David Lee, Horatio Williams, Jermaine Williams, or Delford Matthews. Anybody outside, those are the possible people. The probable people is me, Pat, and Terry.
So when he says My Detroit Players, he's referring to you guys?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that picture that I sent you when I was bending over, if you could see the table, it was a pair of pink Gators right there that my partner purchased for Biggie.
Really?
No question about it.
So that whole Detroit line he has in the song is a reference to you guys.
Absolutely.
And we're talking about even the shoes, the pink Gators and stuff.
We bought him a pair of pink Gators.
Really?
I got a picture of him in Shane Park with a pair of white linen pants, pink Gators.
Wow, man. So you guys gave Biggie the pink Gators that he raps about in the song.
Exactly. If anybody else tells you that, they're lying. It's not even a fucking question.
Yeah.
They're lying. Pepper from the Broadway, he was there. And so, we got lucky. We had a really good run. I often think what life would have been if he didn't die, because we had plans and we were in, and it was a good run, man.
Did he ever talk about, like, because obviously the whole Tupac situation magnified what it was at that time, and that could have been a possibility while he was killed or for whatever reason. But did he ever talk about that, guys, with you guys?
Let me tell you this. I asked him one time. I said, Big, is this Tupac shit real? And he said to me, if we see Tupac right now, just duck, D.
Really?
That's all he ever said, and that's all I needed to know. But later, consequentially, just having conversations with other members of his crew, Big never really hated Tupac. He actually never understood why they were beefing. He loved them. Something happened where the lines of communication seemingly got fucked up, but I never really talked about that much.
Oh, man.
I never really wanted to be on that side of town because I just wanted to do business. Wow. And that shit, I never understood why you would want to beef with L.A. or New York when they're two of the biggest markets that can make or break you in the entertainment business.
Right.
Why the fuck would you want to have beef?
You got to assume that the association of the record label that he was with might have had a part of amplifying that gangster side of him. Also, the incident that happened where, I don't know if the movie is true or not, or the documentaries are true, but that night that Tupac had come to see Biggie at his studio, coincidentally, he got shot that night. And then they said, Biggie was responsible for the shooting. I don't know how true that is, but it's interesting to hear your perspective on what you said, that he didn't understand the beef and he didn't seem like he wanted to partake in it or for it to be a part of what was going on in his life.
He really did not want to do it. And I never really got it. We did one show with Tupac in Flint.
Really?
Very cool dude, no issues, no nothing. And just kind of from a layman's, and by the way, I was the first person to bring Snoop to Detroit.
Really?
We did Snoop in the whole fucking dog pound at Club International over in Southwest Detroit.
So the first time Snoop Dogg performed in Detroit, you guys...
We brung him. We brung him the whole fucking dog pound. That was the stupidest thing I ever did because it should have been at the State Theater at the time, which is now the Fillmore.
So was it bigger? It's bigger than what you guys had?
We kind of got fucked on that deal because the guy that owned it told us the capacity was 3,000. When we packed it, and the numbers did not support 3,000.
Wow.
So we didn't. But this is the crazy. There was this girl. I can't even fucking remember her name. But she was the secretary at Death Row, and I got cool with her, and like really cool. And I flew out there and we kicked it and all this shit. And she's the reason we got it. And if I tell you, we had Snoop, Daz, Corrupt, all those motherfuckers, everybody except Dr. Dre. I'll tell you how much I paid off camera.
Okay.
But it was ridiculously low. At that time, Suge Knight's wife was their tour manager.
Wow.
And they all came. And it was like, and the cool thing, the Dramatics showed up. And they did the Doggy Dog Whirl. And it was a great show.
So Snoop Dogg at that time, is this before or after Tupac's passing?
No, this was like Doggy Style.
Oh, okay, cool. So this is relatively, they're both extremely hot at this time.
Yes.
Man, I can't imagine how much that would cost because, they are the biggest artists and rappers in the world.
Well, I'll tell you this. We paid Biggie back then like 15 grand.
15,000 to have Biggie come by.
Yes. You couldn't get Bobby Valentino for 15 grand now.
Why do you think Biggie placed himself such a low value?
That was just the numbers back then. It wasn't that he was low. It was just the numbers. And they skyrocketed pretty fucking quick.
You're good.
They skyrocketed quick. But that was I mean, I think we paid Naughty by Nature around that time, 15. They were all about 15.
What's that equivalent to today? Like 50,000? Like if they performed today, like it would be a minimum of like 50 to 100,000.
Well,
at the level of success that they had, maybe. No, they were huge. I'm sorry, they were huge.
Well, let's say, well, it's so hard to say now, but like, fuck, man,
it's impossible to say now because
if he would, let's just say, Jay-Z makes over $1 million a night. Drake is right there. If Biggie was still like Jay-Z, he'd be right there too.
$1 million a night.
You figure Puffy probably gets 300 grand to come, and do a party. He probably gets close to $500,000 if he did a show.
Do you think Biggie and Tupac would still be relevant today? And do you think music would even have gotten to this point if they were still around?
I do. And I'm going to tell you why. Because what happens in music, what happens in all great art forms is, let's take jazz, right? You had these amazing musicians, Miles Davis, Coltrane, Thelonious Monk, and others that were so technically on other levels.
Yeah.
People that couldn't do it, instead of them trying harder, they create other BS and say, oh no, this is not jazz, this is smooth jazz. This is fusion jazz. And it's really just an excuse because you can't do the real thing.
Yes.
So it's like techno. 3 dudes from Detroit invented techno, like the cool techno. Then you had these morons from Europe who didn't have soul that created something that sounds like and called it EMD because they couldn't do it. So it's the same thing. Like you have it's like when rap is done on a level that I think it's like professionalism.
Yeah.
Man, Tupac was a professional rapper. Jay-Z is Nas is a professional. Busta Rhymes is a professional.
Yeah.
Nicki Minaj is a professional rapper. Lil Wayne, there's a nice amount of them. But when you can't do that, that's where you get Soulja Boy. You know what I mean? That's where you get other things.
Right. They figured out a way to become popular.
Exactly.
It was less about, and Nicki Minaj actually made that point the other day. She said that music now is less about talent and more about popularity.
Exactly.
And it's true, because if you listen to, you know what I do wonder nowadays? Who could you take from this era, place them in the 90s, and they would have been successful?
This era?
Yeah, because there's a lot of people that you can't take back to the 90s and they would have been successful.
You could take Drake, I think. You don't think you could take Drake?
No, yeah, I'm agreeing with you.
Okay.
Yeah, Drake is super talented.
I think Little Uzi Vert would have to be on food stamps. Nobody would buy that bullshit. I think Nicki Minaj would have been a trendsetter back then.
Yeah.
And I hate that her and Little Kim never worked together.
Right.
I thought that would have been amazing. I think Kendrick back then, he would have been like a reincarnation of Nas in some kind of way.
Right on. You're talking about the top dogs here. They would have been able to stand the test of time in the 90s. But some of the guys who are, again, popularity rappers.
I think the Migos would not have been a...
Yeah, a lot of these cats probably wouldn't have been able to manage it. Look at like Bone Thug and Harmony, like the talent that group had. Like, it was impeccable. Everything about what they did was just piercing. And it's hard to find anybody who's even come close to replicating that sound these days.
It was so original. I mean, it was like singing damn near.
Yeah.
I mean, it took me a while to like them, though.
Really? Once
Yeah.
I heard Crossroads, it was over, son. I was like, I love these guys. And then they had a track with Biggie, obviously.
You know, I did not like that track with Biggie.
What?
Notorious Thugs. Because, you know, Biggie was on their flow.
Yeah.
And it was on purpose to show that he could do it. But Biggie's flow was just so supreme. Yeah. Like, I could see Biggie still, because he's on another level. Yeah. If you go back and think about, if you just listen to some of those features, like the one he did with Shaq on that You Can't Stop the Rain.
I didn't even hear that one.
You never heard the song with Shaq and Biggie? That easily is one of Biggie's strongest verses ever.
Wow, I have to actually look that up, because I listen to almost every single Biggie song and I have not heard him.
Oh my God!
I must have seen it on YouTube and thought it was fake, but for whatever reason.
No, man, he did a song with Shaq, and the track is "You Can't Stop the Rain," and Biggie just it was impeccable, man.
Is that the song they used in BMF? You can't stop the rain.
They sampled that.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
They sampled it, but I didn't actually get to hear it.
Oh my God, man! You got it.
What do you think about this generation of Detroit music that's been coming up? Like, do you pay attention to this rap scene?
No.
You don't look at it?
I do, but not enough to have a fair. I tell you who's interesting to me. I think Baby Tron is interesting.
Very.
I like that one song he had with what's the kid from Corday.
Okay.
I like that one song. I've always thought Danny Brown was interesting. I like Nick Speed and Roast Bit. I like that what they did. And there's somebody I came across. The dude he sounds like a little bit like this dude from LA that runs around with DJ Quick a little bit, but he's dope. He sounds like, I can't remember his name, but I think this. I think that Detroit is getting what it deserves. It's getting the recognition. I like Peasy. It took me a while to understand that offbeat kind of sound, but I like it now.
Yeah, it takes time.
But it's not really an indictment, because at this moment, I don't like hip hop it disappoints me with the subject, all this. I think that, and I think it's happening more, but I think a lot of the times hip hop doesn't realize the responsibility that it has to the black community. And when you are saying shit like, fentanyl and, I'm high on, like, Future, like, he's the worst with this drug bull crap.
Right.
And I think when you get older and you get to a certain level in life and you see certain things and you understand what it takes, you start to feel a certain way when you have these powerful forces saying the dumbest shit.
Yeah, and I'm susceptible to like that because, and I get what you're saying too, because I drink a lot, right? And when I used to hear artists talk about drinking, I would drink. So I'm only imagining people who have messed with drugs a little bit, when they're hearing fentanyl and they're hearing stuff about lean and all these drugs that can actually cause catastrophes that same night.
Exactly.
They're more like, oh, fuck it, he's talking about it, I'm going to go do that shit right now.
Exactly.
And that's the scary part. And it's because it's so highly monetizable and it's such a popular topic that they're willing to sacrifice the future generations' consciousness and well-being to make the money that they can with this music.
Exactly.
But we didn't have to hear that. I always talk about that. When I used to listen to Ice Cube and all these guys, NWA and stuff, and I didn't have to hear them say that much of crazy shit for me to be like, I fucking love this.
Exactly. And it's not necessary.
It's not.
Let me tell you what I really honestly believe. I believe that, let's say, Jay-Z, Nas, all the big heads, the big people you respect, Andre 3K, let's say they had a meeting with all the rappers. Just don't tell anybody, no record executives, no press, no nothing.
Yeah.
Just all the rappers. And said, listen, let's never use the word nigger in our music again. We're not going to tell anybody. We're not going to talk about it. We're just not going to do it.
Yeah.
In 3 years, nobody would be saying that word. No black people. It wouldn't be a term of endearment. It would just silently go away. Wow. That's the power of hip hop. Who the hell how many of these kids would know what a Birkin bag is if it wasn't for hip hop? Balenciaga? They don't fucking they don't market. The hip hop is the market. So lean. Hip hop was the market for that. Fentanyl.
My friends, I have rapper friends, like really close rapper friends, that they would rap about that stuff and they would do that stuff, and I seen the tragic events that happened to them because of these drugs and everything. So it's almost funny that like you're promoting something that's destroying you and destroying the listener, if that person's susceptible to, again, like, falling into that shit because he heard it in a song or whatever. But again, it's not necessary. Like you said earlier, it's not necessary. If you found a different way to entertain people without those subject matters, that more praise to you, and it's possible. It's not like it's impossible.
Man.
It's just easier to rap about bullshit, right?
De La Soul, Tribe Called Quest, Public Enemy, Eric B. and Rakim.
Yep.
All these people didn't talk about blowing your brains out.
No.
They didn't talk about it. Queen Latifah wasn't talking about, her enemy.
I know what it is because I just got hip to really more Doughboys Cash Out songs because I used to like know them, but I didn't really listen. And now I got into a point where I got heavy into them, like going crazy listening to them. It's the piercingness of the content. Like it really rips right through you. And I think that's what people want. Like they want to get ripped right through with these high intense lyrics. Like Eminem was like a great person that did that. He came out with these highly crazy drug topics, killing his wife topics, all these topics that are very piercing. And it's like, damn, how do you avoid listening to that? That's insane. So that's part of it. It just drives right through you. But that's one person also. Since you were so hot in Detroit and working around here, did you ever get to work with Eminem?
Tell you a story.
Yeah.
No, that's the answer. But back in the day, and I don't like Proof and Bizarre, and they had one of Terry, who was one of the partners at the company, was very close with Jerome Mongo, who had the hip hop shop. Okay. Him and Maurice had the hip hop shop. So eventually those guys would pitch us on, investing in their career. And my focus was promotion. So I didn't invest. But I believe that Terry and Pat did invest in somebody, but I don't think Eminem was one of them.
There was an artist here who said his father, T. Stuckey, I guess Senior, was supposed to sign Eminem, but then he got in like some indictment or something like that, and that the deal fell through because of that. And the reason that Eminem didn't end up signing in Detroit was because the guy that was trying to sign him was like a drug lord. He was like a kingpin. And so his friends consoled him like, hey, do you want to sign with a drug lord or do you want to go to talk to Dr. Dre about who to sign with.
Yeah.
And so
And that's how I felt. I felt like when I their music was dope. It was like have you had Bizarre on the
yeah, he's been here twice.
he's dope.
Yeah.
His music was really fucking dope. And it kind of changed a little bit, in my opinion, when they all got with Eminem. It went from his subject matter to kind of Eminem's a little bit.
Well, because Eminem knew how to market in a way that would go worldwide, and that's what they did. They went #1, right, with Devil's Night. So I think Eminem probably talked to them like, listen, guys, I know how to get us at the fucking top of the charts. What you guys are doing isn't going to do it. That's probably what he thought. Like, you guys are making good music, but it's not going to get us worldwide mainstream, and that's what I want to do. Because if you look at everything Eminem does, he's always trying to top the charts. And if you listen to his music now, like, even though some people aren't fans of his music anymore, the guy's still one of the most relevant hip-hop artists, even though he's not making the same type of music.
Absolutely.
It's very interesting. So in your, time of promoting and everything like that, who would you say every first artist was that you got to introduce to Detroit?
Well, we got Biggie first. We got Snoop first. There were some other artists, but they were just for personal reasons. I just liked them, so I had them open the show.
That's cool.
But those were the two that we brung first.
Wow.
But we did some cool things, like we produced. I got a production credit on this with Jean-Luc Ponty live at Chene Park. He's like a world-renowned jazz violinist. We did a lot, man. We booked Bill Cosby at Chene Park. We brung R. Kelly to Chene Park 2 or 3 times.
Wow.
I hated him, by the way.
Who, R. Kelly?
Yeah, he's such a bitch, man. he
Was he like a, what do they call it, drama?
yeah,
what are
a
they-
drama queen.
Drama queen or
Yeah.
something?
And I mean, to the point where we almost got into it 2 or 3 times.
Really?
Like physical. Like it just unnecessary stuff. Like we were standing at the hotel waiting on him to pull up. Now we have his money to pay him. They pull up, 10 minutes they're waiting and that's just me and another guy, grown men. 10 minutes the door opens, big meathead security guy comes out. Y'all gotta move. R. Kelly wants this clear. I was like 6 in the morning. It's 2 grown men standing outside the hotel. Just stupid stuff.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, I didn't even want to pay him. I wanted to tell him, get this bill, man.
There's been plenty of times where I know the artists of magnitude that you're talking about are way higher, like as successful levels. But even for me, sometimes when I would be dealing with these artists that I know personally, I'm like, I almost want to tell them to like leave. Because they don't understand, like, anybody who's really into the art, really into the craft, really into the scene, we're also here because of the fact that we stood on 10 toes every time.
Exactly.
And we don't like to be disrespected, or we don't like to be treated like that. We don't, you know what the real trick about us is? We don't really give a damn about stardom. We don't really give a
Not
damn
even.
if you're a star or not. That's what it really is. It's about our respect for your music and what you've accomplished, not that you are a star. That doesn't mean shit to me.
Doesn't mean anything.
So when they do that shit, it's almost, man, get the fuck out of here. Like, what do you think? I care? Like,
You-
I'll cancel this whole thing right now.
Exactly. And like for me, I did a whole bunch of shows where I never even met the star.
Really?
Because it was, see, for me, it's the work. It's the work. I like making deals. I talk in a deal-making manner about everything.
You're like a businessman.
That's it. That's what I am. Doesn't matter whatever it is. That's what I am. So I was always interested in the people that were going to be here tomorrow, because it's hard to get 2 summers out of this business. You could have the biggest hit, and next summer no one knows you. But Kara Lewis is still there to this day. Rick Franks is still at Live Nation. You know, it's still, you know, the checks are still being. Clive Davis is still writing checks.
Out of everything that you have done, what was the biggest highlight moment for you in everything that you've accomplished so far?
When I introduced my mother to Diana Ross,
Wow.
that was my most happiest thing. You know, because that made her so proud. You know what I mean? Like, what, like from a business point of view, I guess my arrogance always taught me or had me thinking, this ain't shit. I'm looking for the next thing. So it was never something where I was like, oh, this is great, I did it. It was like, man, fuck this, let's do something different. You know, I don't really, once I do it, I want, it's dead. Let's just do something else, because I learned lessons that taught me some stuff. Like being intimidated, right? You're thinking, you know, I remember going into a meeting. Guy tells me, don't say nothing. You're just here. And I go in, there's all these older guys, big time titles and all this. And I'm just sitting there and I'm listening and I'm saying, well, if we did it this way, then this will be better. Mm-hmm. And it's like I'm waiting on them to say the obvious. So I learned a lesson. I said, screw this dude. I'm going to say what I got to say. And I politely said, guys, I've been listening. Can I say something?
Yeah.
And what I said made more sense than all of the stuff they were saying.
Yes.
And from that moment on, I knew I could trust myself. And the guy who told me don't say nothing, me and him ended up not liking each other, because he was so small in his mind that he felt intimidated by me, instead of taking me under his wing and let's do it together. Mm-hmm. You know, but I will never let anyone dim my light. Yeah. And the only thing that scares me is not trying. Yeah. It doesn't scare me if I fall on my face. Doesn't, you know, it's kind of, you know, it doesn't matter. I could hit on 10 women. They all told me to beat it. That doesn't bother me. What bothers me if I go, man, she was so fine, I didn't say nothing. Yeah. I can't sleep for 3 days.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I'm just, you know, I've put myself in a position where I'm just not going to be stopped, no matter what.
Man, this was such an awesome talk.
I got to tell you what I'm doing now.
Oh, yeah, man. I was going to get to that. Okay. Is there anything you want to promote before we start?
Absolutely. Yeah. July the 30th at Riverside Marina. I'm doing a polo match with horses and the whole, you know, cool, you know, linen suit, hat, cigars, cocktails, beautiful women. And I would love to give you guys some tickets to come.
We're there.
It's going to be a fun day, man.
100% we're there.
It's going to be fun, man.
Is there anything else you want to promote?
You know, just Beautiful Machine magazine. Check it out. We're about everything. You know, hip hop all the way down to, you know, politics and, you know, how to have a great barbecue.
For sure.
You know,
I'm going to make you an honorary guest. We do like 5 honorary guests a year. That means you can call me whenever to come on.
Sweet.
And I'll probably contact you in a couple months to do another one, because I know we have so much more to talk about.
Absolutely.
But this was an awesome talk, man. Very informative. I learned a lot from it, just on a personal note as well. And seeing the journey you went through is I know we probably didn't even touch the surface. Maybe it seems like there's so much more to talk about. But that's why we're gonna have you back soon. Appreciate you being a part of this. We're at Parallel Sound Studio, High Low Visuals, Shooting These Productions. For now, we're out. Peace.
Thank you.